Picture the wall, 700 feet of ice, 300 miles long, black-cloaked men standing between the realm and the dead. Now ignore the dead for a moment. Who is actually feeding these guys? And to be fair, the wall is cool. It might be the coolest image in all of fantasy, but cool doesn't cook breakfast. Because the watch cannot replace itself from within, nobody at the wall is fathering the next crop of recruits. They swear an oath, they give up marriage, land, and true-born children, and they serve until the day they die. Which means this is an institution with a birth rate of exactly 0. And an institution with a birth rate of 0 has one true enemy, and it is not the White Walkers. It is a spreadsheet. So we're going to feed them, heat them, and count their funerals. And by the end, you'll see the Night's Watch wasn't hollowed out by ice zombies. It was hollowed out by numbers no Lord Commander could ever negotiate with. Let's call those numbers the Ledger, because that is the villain of this whole story. Now, I don't want to make the lazy version of this argument. The lazy version says a giant wall is dumb. Just walk around it. Haha, roll credits. That's not the argument, and honestly that argument is bad. The wall works. The oath works. Men really do show up and stand their watch. My problem is smaller and meaner than the wall. My problem is math. So let's anchor on a number everyone remembers. By the time of Aegon's conquest, the Night's Watch still fields roughly 10,000 men. They are spread across as many as 17 manned castles along the ice. Castle Black alone once quartered 5,000 fighting men, with all their horses and servants and gear. Now let's see what it actually costs to keep a number like that alive. 10,000 men, in the coldest place on the entire map, doing brutal physical labor, do not eat like guys at a desk. Let's say 3,000 calories a day each, and that is a deliberately conservative estimate for men freezing on top of a wall. 10,000 men times 3,000 calories is 30 million calories a day, every single day. Put that in bread. A hungry man tears through roughly 2.5 pounds of the stuff, so 10,000 men eat well over 12 tons of bread. Not in a year, in a morning. 12 tons of bread, every sunrise, at the literal end of the world. Line that up as Big Macs and it's over 50,000 of them a day. The Night's Watch is secretly a McDonald's the size of a small nation. And the old gods are not dropping off any Uber Eats. And if you're enjoying watching a beloved fantasy army get quietly murdered by a grocery bill, go ahead and hit like and subscribe. It is the only ranging I'll ever ask you to volunteer for. Anyway, because the real question is, from where? The wall grows almost nothing. The ground right around it is frozen solid. The most convenient timber and game lie north of the wall, on the wildling side, the side with the murder in it. So all that bread has to come up from the south, hauled hundreds of miles by lords who once swore they'd send it. And that is test 1. Food is test 1, and it ends the way every test in this video ends. The wall does not feed itself, and hauling it is its own quiet tax. Every wagon of grain crawling north needs oxen or horses. And those animals are just 4-legged furnaces that eat the cargo they carry. A working horse wants around 15 pounds of feed and 10 gallons of water a day, so the longer the road, the more of the food gets eaten by the thing delivering the food. By the time the bread reaches the wall, a real slice of it has already been paid to the horse in tolls. The supply line is a mouth that eats on its way to feeding other mouths. So we move to test 2, which is heat, because a wall of ice is a rough place to forget your jacket. Nobody has clean medieval numbers for this, so let's not pretend we do. But think about everything that has to burn. You're heating big cold stone castles, cooking for hundreds, drying soaked boots for men who lose toes without them. You're firing the forges that keep the gear from rusting into nothing. Even one ordinary wood-heated house chews through several cords over a single hard winter. The watch is not one house, and this is not one winter. It is a winter that lasts years. So the firewood bill runs into thousands of trees a year, felled and hauled and turned to smoke. And the easiest timber, once again, sits in the direction where the things that want to kill you live. Test 2 verdict. The wall cannot even keep itself warm without borrowing from its own enemies. But bread and firewood are not what kills the watch first. The thing that kills it is quieter, and it is already killing it while we sit here doing arithmetic. Which brings us to test 3, and this is the one that matters. Remember the birth rate of 0. Every brother who dies, deserts, or gets too old to climb the ice has to be replaced. Each one needs a fresh man walking up the frozen King's Road to take his place. So give the average brother 20 to 30 years of service before he's gone. To hold 10,000 men, you then need somewhere between 300 and 500 new recruits a year, forever, just to stay flat, not to grow, not to win, just to not shrink. Even under kind assumptions, that is close to one fresh volunteer walking up to the wall every single day. Each one signs up for a lifetime of celibacy, frostbite, and precisely zero pay, at the edge of nowhere. And where do those recruits come from now? Increasingly from dungeons, from defeated armies, and from families looking to quietly dispose of an inconvenient son. The Watch's great recruitment campaign is one tired man in a black cloak. He stands in a cell, offering thieves and killers the wall instead of the noose. This is the moment I remind you the true enemy is the Ledger, and it is winning by a landslide. Human resources, the final boss of the North. And it's worse than just filling empty seats, because some of those seats get up and run. Desertion from the Watch is punishable by death. So every deserter does double damage. He leaves a hole in the wall, and he drags another brother off the wall to go hunt him down. The Ledger doesn't just bleed. It bleeds from both arms at once. And the story tells us exactly how this ends, because it already happened, on the page, in canon. By the time of the books, that proud 10,000 has withered to fewer than 1,000. 19 castles line the wall, only 3 are still manned. The other 16 stand empty and cracking, garrisoned by rot and wind. That is not my prediction. That is the text. The Watch ran this exact experiment for 300 years so we wouldn't have to, and the Ledger won every single quarter. And here's what fewer than 1,000 men strung across 300 miles of wall actually looks like. The Watch really clusters at its castles, not in a neat line, but run the even line fantasy anyway. Spread the old 10,000 along the ice, and you get one guard every 50 yards or so, which is already dangerously thin. Drop to under 1,000, and you get roughly one man every third of a mile. He stands alone in the dark, guarding a whole kingdom's worth of frozen border with a horn and a prayer. So the Lord Commander does the only sane thing left. He writes to the 7 kingdoms and begs for men. And the 7 kingdoms, busy with their own thrones and grudges, mostly write back nothing at all. The realm decided the wall was somebody else's bill a long time ago, which might be the most realistic detail in the entire series. But hold up, you're already saying, they were given land. The gift. 2 big stretches of the North, handed to the Watch on purpose, so rents and crops and farmers would keep the brothers fed. Right, and what happens to it? The gift gets raided and bled and emptied out until it's mostly abandoned villages and fields nobody dares to plow. The one revenue stream designed to save them dries up, because it turns out you cannot farm land that keeps getting set on fire. What is imported barley may never die. Now, at this point, someone in the comments is already typing, celibate brotherhoods were real, they'll say. Monasteries lasted 1,000 years. The Templars, sworn men with no wives held together just fine, so this isn't crazy. And yes, and that is exactly why the Night's Watch should terrify you. Those real orders survived on productive estates, on rents and donations, on legal privileges, and on communities that actually considered them worth funding. The Night's Watch has a shrinking endowment, no tithe, a frozen hostile frontier, and recruits who show up in chains because the alternative was hanging. The real celibate orders are the control group in this experiment. The Watch is the same experiment with every single dial turned to nightmare and then left running for 8,000 years. Speaking of which, remember I said the food problem waits. Here is the part that makes the whole thing worse, because of course it gets worse. In this world, winter does not last 3 tidy months. It lasts years. That means the exact stretch when no crops grow and no wagons dare the frozen roads is also the longest stretch. So the Watch's grocery bill doesn't just sit there politely. It hides, patient, until the worst possible multi-year window. And then it arrives all at once, hungry, with interest. The wall was built to stop what comes in the cold. Nobody ever built a thing to stop the cold itself from doing the math. So, should the Night's Watch have collapsed centuries ago? Let's give the honest, tiered answer. In legend, no. It is 8,000 years old and sworn to be eternal, and the songs will tell you it stands forever. On paper, over the last 300 years, yes, and it did, slowly, one abandoned castle at a time. And realistically, right now, it already has. What's left is not an army, it's a skeleton crew keeping one lantern lit in a single building of a city that quietly died generations ago. They can swear that the night gathers and their watch begins, but bread still expects to get paid, and the ledger has never once taken an oath. Thank you for watching me do cold, patient accounting to a beloved institution, because apparently, this is just what we do here now. Drop me a comment and tell me which fantasy army to feed into the spreadsheet next. I will happily starve it for you. And as always, since you made it this far, I am legally required to give you a doggy cam reward. And for the three of you still here after all that, one last little nugget of doom. Every honest word about the watch failing is also, secretly, the story's whole point. The thing beyond the wall was always going to come, but the watch didn't need the dead to beat it. Give the others a few more quiet centuries of doing nothing at all, and the ledger finishes the job on its own. No army of the dead required. Just a birth rate of 0, a forest on the wrong side, and a bread bill that never, ever forgets. Sleep well, and try not to think about who's counting the loaves. Somebody always is.